Hi there, my name's Alex and I run the Autism Acceptance page on Facebook. Obviously, if you're seeing this on Facebook, you will know this. If you're seeing it on YouTube, check out the link in the comments section where I will link you to my Facebook page. I cover a wide range of topics from a neurodiversity standpoint, so if that's something you'd be interested in, then please check out my page. I think this video would be more interesting to my followers than some random person on YouTube. People who want to learn about autism may find this interesting, but I'm going to open up about myself here, which is something that I haven't really done a lot. I keep autism and the page separate from my life. There's a lot of people, including family, who don't know about my early diagnosis. I'm close to them all. It's just I just don't feel. I don't think people understand the condition enough. I don't feel the need to say anything, and I don't feel confident in saying stuff. I don't want people to see me differently to how they've always seen me, which is always a worry. So yeah, keeping it private. But I want to talk a little bit about myself and how autism has affected me. I was very reluctant, still am in a way, to talk about myself other than on the page in relation to autism. Partly because of the stigma that exists around it still now. It's such a wide diagnosis with such a wide range of symptoms and issues and problems and just things that are. It's very complex. It's a very complex topic. It's very divisive. It's something that a lot of people don't understand. They may understand what autism is, or from especially from an observer's point of view. If you've got a family member with autism, or who's autistic, however you want to say it. I'm not into the politics of person first, or all that jazz. If you've it can be hard for family members, and there are varying degrees of autism, and like I said, the word can be very stigmatizing. I was originally diagnosed in the early 80s, late 1970s, showing my age, and I, as a very young child, toddler, I think I was about 3 or 4. The first memory I have of being, I went to a private nursery school. My parents weren't really rich. They certainly weren't rich in the end. But yeah, my mum, it was more my mum than my dad that wanted me to go to a private school. Produced little ladies and little gentlemen, apparently, and they both worked, which was unusual for the time. Mum stayed at home and dad went to work and all that, BS. But yeah, both my parents worked, both self-employed. So they quite often, in that nursery school, they quite often babysit after hours for working parents. So that was one of the good things, I suppose, from a parent's point of view. My first memory is being in the playground. I must have been about, I don't know, 3, 4 years old, and it seemed like everybody was roaring like monsters. They were playing this game of monsters, and it was just too loud. It was like my nerves were rattling. They were just like roaring noise, and it was sensory overload. I couldn't get away from it. How was I supposed to play with these kids, if, especially if they were doing something that I was scared of? I could have run round and run rah rah rah, but I was scared of the noise, the sensory overload. Um, so that was one of my first memories in as a child. Um, I'm not going to go into my full history. I was bullied as a child, both by other children and other teachers. When I was a very small child, it wasn't so bad. It's sort of as I got older, I guess 7, 8, 9, that the bullying really started. That people, I guess other kids, saw that I didn't appear to fit in. Um, there was a number of reasons for that. First of all, like I said with the monsters thing, um, loud noises. Um, I could make loud noises. I could listen to loud music that I controlled the volume on or whatever. But loud noises that I didn't have control of were scary and overloading. And I've talked about this before, but every sensory experience has a biochemical sensation attached to it. So if you're angry about something, you feel it, it's a physical sensation. If you're happy, it's a physical sensation. If you're sad, it's a physical sensation. And for me, that physical sensation is really heightened. So something that's too loud, I can't just hear it, I can actually feel it, and it's buzzing inside me, and it's making me feel anxious. And that anxious feeling, that feeling of being scared, is a physical sensation inside me that's really ramped up. So that, on top of the actual auditory sounds that was too loud, it was unbearable. And I don't think people think about that with autistic people with sound sensitivity or any kind of sensitivity that, sound, sight, touch, smell, taste. It's also a biochemical sensation, which is, can be pretty heightened up. Anyway, I'm going to do an overlap. I'm not going to go into too much detail about everything. But here were some of my traits. First of all, I was hyperverbal. I remember Mum telling me, I don't actually remember this, but she was looking up in the dictionary for words that I couldn't say as a small child, words that I couldn't pronounce. I used to be able to say tongue twisters. I'm not very good at it now, and say long words really easily that other people would be stumbling over. Remember, people would say, "Oh, how do you say that word?" And they'd say it badly, and then I'd say it the right way. So yeah, that was my little party piece, I suppose. And one thing I was told, and I also remember, and it kind of sticks to this day, don't tend to use words that I don't fully understand what they mean. If I'm not, or if I don't completely understand the meaning, then I won't use the words, and I've always been like that. Um, for me, it's I want to be genuine in what I'm saying, and if I'm not sure what a word means, and I'm just using it because it sounds like grammatically correct, or I've heard other people use it in that context, then to me it just like it could be misinformation, and it just doesn't sit well with me. So I always have to know what a word means before I use it. Completely know what it means before I use it. And yeah, I've always been like that. I have balance and coordination issues. I've never been able to catch the ball in ball games and stuff. I was absolutely rubbish in sports in school. Always last pick for the team. I hated school sports. Luckily, my mum also hated sports in school, so she was quite fine to write me notes to excuse me from PE as much as possible. So yeah, that was a good thing. But it was just the coordination, and I was no good with on rough terrain, or steps where there was no handrail or anything like that. And also, I'm very phobic, so it's not just that I don't know if I have dyspraxia. I've never sort of been into. Maybe I do. I'm not sure. Um, but there are some people that have those problems, and they deal with it better. They'll sort of trip up, or they'll go to places that where they are dyspraxic. They'll walk on rough terrain even though they are dyspraxic, because they're not scared of falling. They're not scared of hurting themselves. I am. And also what I find is the fear is a physical sensation, which is sensory overload and a distraction. So if I'm trying to concentrate on my step or whatever, or climbing some apparatus in PE in school, or jumping off of whatever in school, or navigating rough terrain or whatever, and I'm scared, I'm nervous, then that physical sensation of that fear is going to be a sensory distraction. And I think that's what a lot of people don't kind of think about when they think about stuff like that, balance and coordination issues. So I guess I had occupational therapy to try and help me with that. But in a lot of ways it didn't help me, because it's like walking on balance beams and everything. I was too scared of falling, and that sensation came and clouded my concentration. So it wasn't just about couldn't catch the ball or whatever. I remember my dad, he used to have me walking. I had bad posture, kind of prefer to lean against things, and just either sit down or like not, stand in a way that's more comfortable rather than standing. If I'm standing for a long time, it's not comfortable. I've always been like that. Yeah, obviously I can, but it's just I don't know if that's a thing. I know a lot of people on the spectrum do have issues with that. And yeah, I know I'm not the thinnest of people, but I haven't always been. I guess, I have had issues with my weight growing up, but I haven't always been big, and I still had those troubles, even when I wasn't that didn't have fatty bum issues. Okay. But yeah, so I don't know if that's got something to do with it. I was reading something, the late great autistic author and advocate Donna Williams, who I mention quite a lot on my page, and I cover quite a lot of her work. She talks about the right and left hemispheres, and if you're more right brained, you're more kind of sensory, and if you're more left-brained, you're more kind of you're academic and interpretive and logical, and I would say I fall under the sensory bracket, but I can be logical in certain ways as well. That's the thing with me. When I hear about these things, they don't always, I don't always fit into those boxes. I fit into them some of the time, but like a lot of autistic advocates say, everybody's different on the spectrum or whatever. A spectrum is huge, and some would say too broad, and I agree to a certain extent. I think condition autism is too highly diagnosed, and compassion and empathy and kindness isn't so ready enough, and that's my opinion. So yeah, that was my issues of balance and coordination. Bullied in school, always picked, last to be picked for the teams, which made my self-confidence, hit my self-confidence quite badly. Called spastic and div, for because of my coordination, balance and coordination issues, and also I have short-term memory issues. I've never been very good at maths, or math as they call it in America. What if you know? Sorry. And I'd be trying to work out one part of a maths problem, and as I was working it out, as I'd worked out the way to work it out, I was like trying to hold on to the answer, and then work out what the next part was, and then I'd forget how I worked the first part out, method, and it'd just all get confusing. So I've never been any good at maths or anything where there's a lot of things, where you're juggling a lot of things at once to come up with information. I'm not very good at juggling. I'm better at including, physically juggling. I'm better at trying to merge things. And that's what my brain, I find associations to remember things. A lot of autistic people are good with rote memory, and I'm kind of good, but it's more than rote memory. I'm crap with rote memory if I can't hold some substance to it. So my times tables, I was never any good at it, because especially like shooting them off, like people say, like 4 6s, 5 8, 5 8s. It's like I've never been able to do that. Even now, I count. So maths isn't my strong point. And just random rote learning. It doesn't matter how many times I say it, unless I can find some substance to it, then I'm just not going to hold on to it. It's just going to slip through my fingers like sand, so to speak. I remember going to on holiday with my dad to Tenerife, and we both decided to learn. We didn't know any Spanish, and we both decided to learn enough Spanish to, be able to ask for things and, you know, get by a little bit. And Dad got this phrase book, a Spanish phrase book, and it translated words into like the equivalent of an English word and linked them together. And that I was really good at that, because that is how I learned, because it had substance. So for instance, cat was gatto. So the description in the book says, imagine your cat jumping on the worktop and eating your chocolate gatto off the worktop. So if somebody said to me then, how do you, what's cat in Spanish? Before I'd even found the word gatto, I'd have this mental picture of the cat on the worktop eating something, something gooey, and then, oh shoot, the cat's eating a gatto, gatto cat, that's it. So linking it together. Perro was dog. I used to have a dog called Perry, so I don't know what the thing was for that, but that's how I would have remembered the dog, because Perry. Pan is egg, I think. No, pan is bread. That's it, bread. So I just imagine doing fried bread in the pan, and that kind of stuck. And that was many years ago, and I still remember that because of those associations. I remember going camping. I'm not a camper, but a while ago, a friend of mine loves camping, and we went camping around Scotland in the summer. And we went to so many different places. I was trying to remember the names of places, and I can't remember all of them. But we went to this particular place, camped in this particular place, and I kept forgetting the name. And it was Mezak. My friend who's from Yorkshire as well, he said, when I kept forgetting, he said, just remember, think of me and Zach Dingle off Emmerdale. For my American followers, Emmerdale is a British soap opera, like EastEnders of the North, or whatever. And to this day, I picture this friend and Zach Dingle, and remember me, Zach. So, that's I don't know if it's rote learning more associative learning with me. If I can associate something, if I can give something substance rather than just random. I don't hold on to random bits of information very easily. I have to put some kind of substance to it. For me, anyway. So I guess I talked about issues of processing, accessing, and monitoring when I talked about, was talking about Donna Williams' work. So for me, it's processing the information. With short-term memory issues, I process it, but then if there was a lot of stuff going on around me, I'd forget it straight away. Being able to monitor it, access and monitor it, that was always a problem if I couldn't hold any kind of substance to it, or if there was a lot of things going on in my brain. I take a while sometimes to make links, to learn things. But once I've learned it, then I pretty much learned it forever, with most things. So that's how I kind of deal with things. And I kind of use weird associations and stuff to, even if it's random associations, like with that Spanish phrase book, it's got nothing to do with the actual word. But if you can bring it back to something that you can relate to and then link it, then I find that helps me. Because of my issues in school and because of being bullied, I remember playing up to get kicked out of school. People today think I was a goody two-shoes. I wasn't. I was rude to the teachers. I'd never dare be rude to my mum. But yeah, I was rude to the teachers. And basically I got bullied, and they wouldn't help me, and I just thought, well, I'm going to bully the teachers because they can't, they're not allowed to hit me. They're not doing anything to help me. I have no control. They're the ones with the control. So I have to misbehave and make them protect me. And that was my whole idea. And I started off, from this private school. I went to you could only go to the private school for so long, and then you had to go to a normal primary school, which is where I went. I went to the local comprehensive school, and that's where the bullying really started, in sports and everything. And then because of my short-term memory issues and because of my inability or struggling to hold lots of information at certain, a lot of information at one time, and having to be able to not just take it in, I'd have to go back over it and let it sink in before I could move on to the next one. Well, that's not how most people learn. Most people were ahead of me in that. And I had an assistant in mainstream school, which kind of made me stand out as well. But I guess the assistant came out with me at break time, and I spent time with the assistant. I remember having this one friend in primary school, who was into Doctor Who. I think he ended up going to a school for kind of gifted children. I think he was a little bit quirky as well. And they always used to say that me and this person, we were going out with each other, like kids tease each other. So Alex and Mickey, I'm going to change his name. Alex and Mickey are going out together. Alex and Mickey are going out together. Alex and Mickey up a tree. KISO. All that bull crap. And yeah, I mean, at least then I felt like I had Mickey. I keep wanting to say his real name. And then he moved to my mum actually looked at the same school that he went to, and found out, I don't know why I didn't end up going there. It wasn't suitable. They didn't deem it suitable. It was more kind of specialised. They apparently try to look at what your strengths are, and work to your strengths, and work on subjects via your strengths. But I don't know why I didn't end up going there. But I went back to this hellhole, and I had this teacher who used to bully me, and I remember writing this thing about, thinking about what the worst thing that could happen to them, and I thought, I hope he goes to hell. And I'd write letters to the devil, and I'd write letters on my desk, or on bits of paper. Dear devil, please come and take Mr. Dawkins, changing his name, away because he's a horrible person, he's a bully, whatever. And every evening or every time after school or playtime, it was usually after school because I didn't really care about going out at playtime because unless I had Mickey, I didn't really, have anyone to hang around with. But it was usually after school, and then I'd be late. He used to walk home from school, and he'd keep me there and have me clean off the thing with the Ajax off the messages off the desk. Mr. Dawkins is an idiot or whatever I'd written on the desk, and have me clean that. And there were times when he took me out the class. And he pushed me up against the wall. Bear in mind, this is in the 1980s. And he grabbed my chin to make me look at him. But he'd grab it so hard, he'd dig his fingers in my chin. And then he'd poke my shoulder, and that really hurt. And then the other kids that bully me, and the teachers, especially Mr. Dawkins, didn't care. A lot of them bullied me as well for the way I behaved, but the way I behaved was a result of being bullied. I was trying to get kicked out. My mum saw this school, it was more of a specialist school, and I knew I had to go to a school. This school didn't suit me. I could have taught the class, but I wasn't getting bullied because I'm not being horrible here, I was the advanced kid in the school. When I did go to that school, I remember being 8 or 9, and it was a school that you went from 5 to 16 from the time you started school to the time you left. And I remember being 8 or 9 and them sending me to the top class with 15, 16-year-olds to get workbooks that challenged me. So I wasn't really learning anything at that school, but I wasn't getting bullied. And I used to go a couple of days a week to this school. And I ended up going to this special school. So I guess I'm what people would have called the semi-betweeners. Mainstream at that point didn't fit me. Special school didn't fit me. Then we ended up moving area. Me and my mum, parents split up. We ended up moving to somewhere else. And the child, it was decided that I would go to the local comprehensive school. My parents split up. I was in a bit of a bad state at the time. I struggled there and ended up going to a unit in a mainstream school. Whereas some of the kids did actually go into the mainstream school, and I went in for mainstream lessons. But a lot of the kids, especially towards the end of the year, they were troubled kids. And I was in with mostly boys, and I remember getting bullied physically and mentally there. Not because of, being thick or whatever, but they just come from a rough area. They were boys. I was quite quiet and refined, I guess. And they just physical and mental bullying there. I left school, went to college, started off on this pathway course. Sorry, before I left that final school, I was doing a couple of mainstream lessons, but then going back to the unit, I don't think they knew what to do with me. I started off in a pathways course at college. Again, there was a mix of people, and some of them were really profoundly disabled, and I was just like, I was in an area where there weren't many resources, and everyone was clumped together. So you got your people that were struggling academically, or certain things, and then you got your people that were really profoundly disabled, and quite often they were put in together, just warehoused together. Anyway, I ended up going on another course, like another mainstream course, and I found college more. I went on a couple of courses. One of the courses I made friends. There's a couple of the more capable people on the pathway course that went on this other foundation course with me, and then I met other people. One of the people I met is a friend now, years later, and that wasn't for it was for more on a mainstream, and then I just navigated adult life, and I guess people are more judgmental in school, and there were different types of people. There were people from all walks of life, and I guess everybody has to go to school, but people going to college, especially at the time, they went to college because they chose to go to college, and that was the thing. And now I get on with people. I mean, I can be quite shy. I'm not very good with new people in a new situation. I mean, in my workplace, I've been there for years, so we all know each other, and I'm not, someone new comes in, I'm okay, because we all know, I know everyone else, and we're a team, we're a familiar team, and I don't get that problem so much now. But growing up was hard. Growing up in a judgmental world, not knowing, I guess, school authorities, parents not knowing where to put me. Special ed wasn't for me. I wasn't, not being funny, but I wasn't intellectually disabled. I wasn't. I mean, there were certain things. I guess I had quirks, but I'm not socially. I'm PDA, so I'm not socially that different. I'm not so. Well, we're all different, and it's not so much now. It's things have improved, but now any issues I deal with is internal stuff, little quirks and things. I still have the short-term memory issues, still have certain perceptual things, like the biochemical talkback and stuff, issues with being oversensitive, effective empathy. There's a lot of stuff that I deal with internally, but I deal with it without too much of a struggle, especially now. And yeah, do I have autism now? What's autism? That's the thing. I know this is going to upset a lot of people, but I'd like to say no. But the diagnosis is so fickle. I think I have autism related issues, autism related perceptions. Stephanie Bethany has a video on phenotype and genotype, and there's definitely autism in my family, but I think I wouldn't say I'm autistic anymore. Or was I ever? The label was given to me by Elizabeth Newson, who is a renowned autism specialist at the time. People in America have heard of Elizabeth Newson. I've heard Stephanie Bethany mention Elizabeth Newson on her channel. She's in America, so yeah. Anyway, that's my story. This is me, Alex, your captain of the AA ship. But I've had self-confidence issues, I've had struggles and battles, but they've made me stronger. I say thank you to the bullies because you've made me a more compassionate person. I say thank you to the people that tried to push me too hard, because I have empathy and I understand what it's like to be pushed too hard, and perhaps how to help someone rather than push them too hard. I think it's about seeing the positives. I used to hate myself. Obviously, we all want to be seen by people as, we all want to be liked. We all want to be seen by people as equal. I still struggle, definitely, with self-confidence, but I am getting better, and I'm starting to realise that people that treat you like shit, they are the ones with the problem, not you. People that ridicule you for the things that you struggle with, for the things that you do differently, they're the ones with the problem. And I also believe that a lot of us, we live in a socially cladded world where, to a certain extent, we're all trying to be fake to fit in. But we're being fake to fit in with other people who are being fake to fit in. And it just seems like, why? Why do we have to hold people to certain standards? We all do things, I'm sure, in private that we wouldn't do in public. But then we ridicule each other for doing it in public. Doesn't make a lot of sense. That's the way I see it anyway. Anyway, that's me. I hope it's given you some insight into myself. I set up the page. I don't want to... a lot of autism is ABA related and stuff like that, and I don't like that sort of stuff. And also I don't want to out myself. So I thought doing the page is a way of helping autistic people, helping people who have struggled like me and who are struggling now, and people that are, even those who are sort of more profoundly autistic or whatever. I can understand from the sensory point of view, from a certain, it's like you understand your own species more, however different they are. You understand your own species more than you understand another species. A human is going to understand another human, however diverse they are, more than they're going to understand a dog or a cat or whatever, pretty much most of the time. So I think we poo-hoo what so-called high-functioning autistic people have to say about so-called low-functioning autistic people. But the sensory struggles, a lot of the sensory struggles are still the same. A lot of the perceptual issues are similar. It's relatable. Might be completely different on a completely different level. But I think low support needs autistic people do have, they should be given a big say in how to help high support needs autistic people. And a lot of them, like Donna Williams, Paul Isaacs, Stephanie Bethany, Ryan Kelly, all the content creators you see, they're helping people. They're not just helping high functioning people, they're helping people all across the spectrum. And that's a good thing. I think we need to quit with the politics and all that stuff and gatekeeping and just be compassionate to each other. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling on now. A little bit about me. Love and peace to you all. Bye for now. Remember, you're stronger than your struggles.